In the last few days, Israel has unleashed a series of bombings and airstrikes on Syrian territory, which has wiped out the majority of its military capacity.
We're talking about 70% of Syria's military capacity gone.
Yeah.
Like one of their small naval fleets that they had, gone.
Yeah.
One of their scientific research centers that was making weapons, gone.
Their small air force, gone. Yeah, this is obviously on the back of
Radars, gone. Sorry.
Yeah,
Continue.
no, you're fine. Of the toppling of the Bashar al-Assad government, right? And Israel hadn't really gotten involved in that while the rebels were advancing and taking control of the rest of Syria. But now Israel sees an opportunity to make sure that Syria is even weaker than it otherwise would be after the new government has taken control. So they've not only bombed all this military capacity, but they've also occupied a new swath of the Golan Heights, which kind of sits in the northeast of Israel, right between Jordan and Lebanon, and right on the western border of Syria. This seems just crazy to me.
It's
right?
crazy. We're talking about hundreds of strikes that have been taking place. Netanyahu has indicated that, like, the reason, obviously, the Israelis are saying the reason is for security. The Golan Heights is important for security because it's an elevated position that overlooks important and populated Israeli areas, and that if any hostile territories lay weapons on these heights, they could destroy Israeli population centers very quickly, very harshly.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of this was kind of dealt with a 1974 buffer agreement between Syria and Israel.
Brokered by the UN.
That basically said this area was going to be demilitarized. Okay. Now, Israel is breaking that agreement, invading the area, taking this area. What's one of the top peaks, the top mountain,
Hermon, I believe.
Hermon. They're taking that peak. They're calling that a natural barrier. But that's in the buffer zone that was brokered in this 1974 deal.
Yes.
And in response to the United Nations saying you're breaking this deal,
What the heck?
Israel goes, we made that deal with Bashar al-Assad Syria, not this new Syria.
Yeah.
This new Syria is a different entity, so that treaty is now null and void.
Which is a completely ridiculous formulation.
It's so slimy. It's so gross. It's so opportunistic.
It's very Israel.
Well, that's rough.
It is, though. It's very this iteration of Israel at the very least.
It's unfortunate, and now it's difficult because it's difficult for me. Let's start here, okay?
Sure.
Does Israel have a right to be nervous about collapsing Syria? I think they do. I think it's not good that one of the main rebel groups that is leading the charge or is now leading the charge for this new government used to be associated with Al-Qaeda.
Sure.
That wanted the destruction of Israel.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not good that they are the ones taking charge here, but as we know, they've moderated a lot since 2011.
Yeah, well, and I think it's more the question. It's not about where they lie politically. It's like, does any political stance that they take? Israel is surrounded has always been surrounded by groups that want to destroy it, right? And we still kind of frown upon them using that as justification for
invasion,
an initial strike, right? A preemptive strike. This preemptive strike just destroyed 70% of their military capacity.
70% of the military capacity.
That just seems insane. And now, again, Netanyahu is trying to use this really flimsy argument for Israel's safety to say, not only are we going to completely settle this buffer zone, we're going to try to double the number of settlers that we have had here before.
Yeah, that's something we didn't mention before. Not only did they invade this area, yes, they took it over militarily, they want to settle it.
Yes.
They want to bring Israeli citizens into it, which then strengthens the claim of that area for future generations, for future years, in order to renegotiate certain border disputes.
Yep.
Right? So this is about a long-term Israeli expansionist project. They saw the opportunity. They've taken the opportunity. That's all it is.
Yeah.
They weren't attacked by Syria for an incredibly long time. Okay.
I think Saudi Arabia put out the best statement.
Yeah.
They're like, this is obviously Israel just trying to weaken Syria on its border, as it always has tried to do, so that it doesn't have to face a threat.
Absolutely.
And that's all it is. They want a destabilized Syria, because otherwise Syria is the central node in the Middle East, and it can build up power if it successfully kind of negotiates and has diplomatic relations with all the other big powers around it.
Yeah.
That's Israel's worst nightmare.
And it's interesting because Israel has been on this path to try to normalize relationships with Saudi Arabia for a while now, and almost have this to normalize relationships, to bring a greater sense of peace to the region. I think this could put a real hold on that.
Yeah.
Because Saudi Arabia now doesn't want to be in charge or be aligned with an Israel that is going to be taking sovereign territory away from a different state.
Exactly.
They don't want to be a part of that, especially an Arab state.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's everything is just getting more shaky, where you would have hoped that things stabilized.
It also makes it makes America look like a joke. It makes America look like a joke supporting Israel doing all this, because
which we have been made to look for over a year now.
Yes, well over a year now. We are looking like a joke as we continue to back Israel's rights to self-defense as they invade another country. And it's just it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. Now, when Trump gets into office, I imagine that these Israeli expansionist projects only expand faster and faster, right? Because at least with the Biden administration, there was some pullback trying to stop them, some leash. There will be no leash. There will be no collar.
No.
There will be full free reign.
Yeah, that's exactly what I expect.